Hello everyone, welcome to our video. In this video, we are group 5. We're going to tell and explain about planning goals and learning outcomes. But before, let me introduce myself. My name is Nyoman Andini Putri as the first presenter, and my student number registration is 191202124. I would like to explain about the ideology of the curriculum. In developing goals for educational programs, curriculum planners draw on their understanding both of the present and long-term needs of learners and of society, as well as the planners' belief and ideologies about schools, learners, and teachers. Each of the 5 curriculums perspective examined here emphasize a different approach to the role of language in the curriculum. The first one is academic rationalism. Academic rationalism is an orientation to the curriculum that honors the role of the traditional content in the development of the rational human mind. According to expert Clark 1987.5, academic rationalism is something used to justify the inclusion of certain foreign language in schools' curricula, where they are taught not as tools for communication but as an aspect of social studies. And the characteristic of academic rationalism are oldest curriculum orientation, and the second is stresses the intrinsic value of the subject matter and its role in developing the learner intellect, humanistic values, and rationality. The second is social and economic efficiency. This educational philosophy emphasizes the practical needs of learner and society and the role of an educational program in producing learners who are economically productive. In language teaching, this philosophy leads to an emphasis on practical and functional skills in the foreign or second language. And the third is learner-centeredness. In language teaching, this educational philosophy is leading to an emphasis on process rather than product. Focus on learner differences, learner strategies, and on learner self-direction and autonomy. The fourth is social reconstructionism. This curriculum perspective emphasizes the role schools and learners can and should play in addressing social injustices and inequality. The curriculum derived from this perspective focus on developing knowledge, skills, and attitude, which would create a world where people care about each other, the environment, and the distribution of wealth. The fifth is cultural pluralism. This philosophy argues that schools should prepare students to participate in several different cultures and not merely the culture of the dominant social and economic group. According to expert R. Phillips and Terry, 1999, cultural pluralism seeks to address racism, to raise the self-esteem of minority groups, and help children appreciate the viewpoints of other cultures and religions. Okay everyone, that's all from me. The next material will be presented by my friend, and thank you.
Hello, my name is Ayu Apriliani. My registration number is 191-202-1197 and I'm from 4D class. Starting curriculum outcomes. Aims. In a curriculum discussion, the terms goal and aims are used interchangeably to refer to a description of the general purpose of curriculum and objective, to refer to a more specific and concept discussion, description of purpose. Aims statements reflect the ideology of the curriculum and show how the curriculums will seek to realize. The following are examples of aims statement for different kinds of language programs: a Basinese English course, a course for hotel employers. Objective. Aims are very general statements of the goals of programs. They can be interpreted in many different ways. For example, consider the following statement. Students will learn how to write effective business letters for use in the hotel and tourism industry. To read authentic, non-specialist, non-fiction text in English with comparison and a reasonable speed. Objective number 1. To use linguistic information in text as clues to meaning. Number 2. To understand the communicative value of the text. Number 3. To read for information. Number 4. To read interpretatively. Competency-based program outcomes. An alternative to the use of objective in programs planning is to describe learning outcomes in terms of competencies and approach associated with competency-based language teaching. The nature of competencies. Competencies refer to observable behavior that are necessary for the successful completion of real-world activities. These activities may be related to any domain of life, though they have typically been linked to the field of work and to social survival in a new environment. The standard movement, the most recent realization of the competency perspective in the United States, is seen in the standard movement, which has dominated educational discussion. Okay, I think that's all from me. The next material will be continued by my friends.
Okay guys, before I start my material, I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Putu Radhaswami, and you can call me Radha. My registration number is 19120211196. So, for my material is non-language outcomes and process objective. A language curriculum typically includes other kinds of outcome apart from language-related objective of the kind described above. If the curriculum seeks to reflect values related to learner-centeredness, social reconstruction, or cultural pluralism, outcomes related to these values will also need to be included, because such outcomes go beyond the content of linguistically oriented syllabus. They are sometimes referred to as non-language outcomes. So there are confidence, motivation, cultural understanding, knowledge of the Australian community context, learning about learning, clarification of goals, and for the last is access and entry into employment, further study and community life. So, next, objective in this domain relate to the personal, social, cultural, and political needs and rights of learners. If these are not identified, they tend to get forgotten or overlooked in the curriculum planning process. Jackson gives the following example of objective in on-arrival programs for immigrants that relate to understanding that context of local service in station. So, for the example is to assist students to identify major local providers of service for. So, for the first is the unemployed. For the second, employment. For the third is education and training. So, to assist students to identify the main function of the above. So, to situate main function of above service in context of educational provision as a first step in the process of ongoing adult education. And next, to assist students to identify major service, including private or public. For example is 1. Migrants, 2. Children, 3. Women, and for the last, sport and recreation. And next, to provide task-oriented activities including community visits to familiarize students with above surface, and for the last, to assist students to ascertain reflections of above surface for themselves in terms of Stenhouse argued that the curriculum should focus on activities that engage learners in such process as investigation, decision-making, reflection, discussion, interpretation, making choice, comparison with others, and so on. So, thus Hanley, Whitla, Moss, and Walter identified the aims of a course titled "Man, a Course of Study." So, for like us to initiate and develop in young children. So, next, Jackson in 1993, 41 gives example of objective designed to help develop different types of learning strategies. The following is related to develop strategies for effective organization and management of time. So to explicitly introduce students to the concept of time allocation in relation to study, to assist students to identify realistic times and time spent for home study and individual student study in the learning center. And for the last material is language and culture. At the end of the course, pupils should be able to appreciate that there are varieties of English reflecting different cultures and use this knowledge appropriately and sensitively in communication, and adopt a critical but not negative attitude towards ideas, thought, and values reflect in spoken and written texts of local and foreign origin. So, the American Council of the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Language in its national standards for foreign language learning in 1996, part of the standards movement referred to earlier, identifies a number of objectives for language program that relates to the philosophy of cultural pluralism. For example, students demonstrate understanding of the concept of culture through comparison of the cultures studied and their own, and students acquire information and recognize the distinctive viewpoint that are only available through the foreign language and its cultures. So the planning of learning outcomes for language course is closely related to the course planning process. ISUs involved in developing and organizing course contents are the focus of chapter 6. So, thank you for your attention.
My name is Gede Prayogi, and you can call me the Bayu. And now I will the next material that is discussion question and activities. The number one is choose a language teaching context you are familiar with and characterize the ideology underlying the curriculum. Are there any limitations of the ideology you have identified? And number two, what limitation might there be in a focus on practical and functional skill in a language curriculum? And number three, how has the philosophy of learner centered need influenced approach to language teaching in recent years? What is such as philosophy a response to? And number four, do you think it is appropriate for language teacher to seek to empower students? If so, give example of issue you think should be addressed and how this might be the focus of teachings. And number 5, to what extent is cultural pluralism an issue in the context in which you work or will work? If it is an issue, how would you address it in the curriculum? And number 6, what approach to planning learning outcomes is used in a program you are familiar with? How effective is it? And number 7, give example of I am statement that are appropriate for the following kind of course. That are a course for English in primary school, and then a course in listening skill for intermediate level learners. And then number 8, rewrite the following I am statement so that they describe change in learners. That a student will study English grammar, and then student will improve their pronunciation. And then number 9, prepare 5 sample objectives related to this I am. Student will learn how to use effective office communication skill in English. And then number 10, look at the list of listening skills and conversation skill in Appendix 2 and prepare 3 samples objective related to any of the skill listed. And then number 11, prepare the description of competencies required to perform the following activities that are part of the target competencies of a program for English for hotel employees. And then number 12, and handling guest check-in at the hotel receptions desk and taking guest meal orders in a restaurant, and then dealing with guest inquiries at a tour desk. And then number 12, discuss a teaching context you are familiar with and identify some non-language outcomes that are important in the context. And then number 30, discuss the advantages and limitations of using the following in planning learning outcomes, objective, competencies, and standard. Okay, that's all from me, and thank you for your attention, and thank you for watching our presentation, and see you.